This is crazy. Even when it's unintentional, Stephanie White just gets blasted and exposed. This time by one Draymond Green. We got Sophie Cunningham. It's so much to break down. We all know Stephanie White has been an abomination of a head coach, especially to start off this season. The Indiana Fever sitting at 500 at 4-4. This is ridiculous. She's subbing Caitlin Clark out every 3 minutes, subbing her out the first 3.5 minutes in the first quarter, playing 11 different players in first quarters, all types of foolishness and nonsense, yet alone this weird switch.
Draymond Green just lit a match and dropped it directly onto Stephanie White's coaching career. He didn't hold back, calling the Indiana Fever's defensive strategy an absolute disaster that no championship-level player would ever accept. The words were cold, calculated, and left Caitlin Clark in a state of pure shock as the reality of her rookie season began to sink in. This wasn't just a critique from a spectator, but a verbal evisceration from a four-time champion who knows exactly what winning looks like. The silence coming from the Fever front office right now is deafening after these comments went viral. It seems the honeymoon phase is officially over.
An absolute joke. Now let's take a look at what Draymond Green had to say before we get to Sophie Cunningham.
Jalen Brunson living on an island with James Harden guarding. That's just not something you can let happen. This isn't just a coaching issue. When you're trying to compete at a championship level,
This applies to Caitlin Clark in the Stephanie White situation as well. Follow along now.
You can let happen. This isn't just a coaching issue. When you're trying to compete at a championship level, you must have guys that want to take on that challenge. I'm not switching at this point in the game. Let them set the first screen, don't switch. Let them set the second screen, don't switch. Now as opposed to Jalen Brunson.
When Sophie Cunningham stepped in front of the microphones, nobody expected her to confirm the nightmare. She admitted that the Indiana Fever are currently operating with exactly one defensive scheme. One. In a league filled with elite offensive talents who can dissect a team in their sleep, Stephanie White has been running a basic switch everything system that is getting the team annihilated. Sophie's honesty was refreshing but terrifying for Fever fans who realize their star player is being set up for failure. It turns out that Draymond Green wasn't just being loud, he was being accurate about a system that is fundamentally broken from the top down.
I don't understand it. Guys simply don't know how to win, don't want to do what it takes. I was baffled by this. I'm still baffled by it every night when I watch these guys accept switches and not really want to guard the guy. So
that applies directly to the Indiana Fever, more so with this joke of a game plan, and Sophie Cunningham revealing, oh, we only have one defense, and that's the switch 1 through 5. He's showing you can't do that. It's lazy, it's a joke, and you're gonna get destroyed that way, the way the Indiana Fever have.
Everybody gonna come out and say, oh man, James Harden got annihilated. They're picking on him. They should pick on him. Why not? Absolutely pick on him. So all of a sudden,
Draymond's main point of contention was the lazy nature of switching every single screen. He watched the film and saw players being left on islands, forced to guard matchups they had no business being in. For Caitlin Clark, this means being targeted by bigger, stronger veterans who can simply overpower her because the scheme demands a switch instead of a fight. Draymond called out the lack of pride in individual defense, noting that players who don't want to fight through a screen simply don't know how to win. This isn't just a physical failure, it's a mental one that starts with the coaching staff's instructions.
Not really want to guard the guy. So
that applies directly to the Indiana Fever, more so with this joke of a game plan, and Sophie Cunningham revealing, oh, we only have one defense, and that's the switch 1 through 5. He's showing you can't do that. It's lazy, it's a joke, and you're gonna get destroyed that way, the way the Indiana Fever have.
Everybody gonna come out and say, oh man, James Harden got annihilated. They're picking on him. They should pick on him. Why not? Absolutely pick on him. So all of a sudden, them threes that will fall late, they fall short. No matter how you want to slice it, it is not James Harden's job to guard Jalen Brunson one-on-one. It's not what he's paid to do. Some of those other guys who just
The impact on Caitlin Clark cannot be overstated because she is the one bearing the brunt of these tactical errors. She came into the league with the highest expectations in history, only to be placed in a system that Draymond describes as a total joke. Imagine being the face of the franchise and realizing your head coach is subbing you out every 3 minutes like clockwork. Stephanie White's rotation patterns have been described as an abomination, preventing any sort of rhythm or flow for the young star. Caitlin is out there trying to lead, but the foundation beneath her feet is crumbling due to these questionable coaching decisions.
Had to say.
Something that's hurting us right now is we're only playing one defensive scheme, and in this league, it's too good. You can't, and people are going to pick us apart. And so, we got to dial in. We got to focus. Your IQ has to be on point. You have to know what schemes we're doing, and if you can't do that, then you can't play. And that's the point where we're at right now.
And the one scheme they have is switching 1 through 5. Listen to what Draymond Green had to say. Listen to what Sophie Cunningham just said. And you wonder why the Indiana Fever are sitting at 4-4. You wonder why they sitting at 4-4, 8 games into the season.
Sophie Cunningham didn't stop at just mentioning the lack of schemes. She revealed that the team is failing to execute even the basic things they do have. She mentioned that if players don't have the IQ to stay on point, they shouldn't be on the floor. This points to a massive disconnect between the coaching staff's expectations and the reality of the roster's performance. When a veteran leader like Sophie says the league is picking them apart, it's a red alert. They are essentially walking into every game with a target on their backs and a neon sign that tells the opponent exactly how to beat them. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
So Lee Raven Johnson's done a pretty good job defensively. This ain't about the young guns. This is poor coaching. This is poor coaching. You're sitting there putting Kelsey Mitchell, who is tiny, on an island versus Gabby Williams and bigger players. You're putting Caitlin Clark on an island versus all these people, and they get 9 and 10 dribbles to go at her with no help. This is terrible coaching, period.
So this team really does have to focus. We have a lot of young guns. We have a lot of people who are very talented, but at the same time, you have to dial in and know what we're doing. Otherwise, it just won't work. And so we had a long meeting yesterday. It was a really good meeting. And so
the coaching staff's obsession with playing 11 different players in the first quarter alone is mind-boggling. Most elite teams have a core rotation that builds chemistry over time, but Stephanie White seems to be throwing darts at a board. This nonsense, as the commentators call it, is hurting the development of the younger players who need consistent minutes to adapt to the pro level. Caitlin Clark is seeing her playing time fractured by a coach who seems more focused on experimentation than winning. Draymond Green's assessment that this isn't championship basketball is becoming more apparent with every single game.
For October, but I don't even know what Portland. We didn't even watch film. That tells you how bad it is. And normally,
we didn't even watch film. This whole thing is a joke. This whole thing is a joke, bro. Stephanie White didn't want to watch film because she didn't want to see how bad her coaching was. This is a joke.
she's watching every second of it, and so we wanted to flush that one. Everyone knew it was bad. We all kind of watched it on our own, and it's just not acceptable. We're too good to be playing like that.
Have you seen positives defensively in practice, and it just not translating to games, or is it kind of just everything?
You know, I think that we found a scheme that worked, but
perhaps the most shocking revelation from Sophie Cunningham was the team's reaction to their loss against Portland. They didn't even watch the film. Let that sink in for a moment. A professional team played so poorly and the coaching was so horrendous that they decided to just flush the tape down the toilet rather than learn from it. This is usually the sign of a locker room that has lost faith in the process. When you stop looking at your mistakes, you stop growing. For a team with a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, refusing to analyze a blowout loss is an insult to the competitive nature of the sport.
It's sad. It's a sad state of affairs that are going on in the Indiana Fever's organization, and Caitlin Clark is stuck in a clown show. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. This Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel.
Draymond Green's critique focused on the concept of taking on the challenge. He mentioned how Jalen Brunson gets to live on an island because defenders are too eager to switch off him. In the Fever's case, they are making it way too easy for opponents to get the switches they want. Instead of forcing a difficult matchup, they are handing it over on a silver platter within the first few seconds of the shot clock. Draymond's point is that if you don't want to guard your man, you shouldn't be out there. This applies directly to the Fever's soft defensive identity that has led to their mediocre 4-4 start. The defensive mismatches created by this one-move defense are painful to watch. You have Kelsey Mitchell, who is significantly smaller than her opponents, being left on an island against players like Gabby Williams. It's a recipe for disaster that any professional coach should be able to see from a mile away. By forcing these switches, Stephanie White is essentially sabotaging her own players' ability to succeed. Caitlin Clark is being asked to defend players who have 9 or 10 dribbles to go at her without any help defense in sight. It's not just poor coaching, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the league's talent. In an attempt to fix the bleeding, the team held a massive 2-hour meeting that sounds more like a therapy session than a tactical briefing. Sophie described it as peeling back the layers to find out what everyone was feeling. While communication is important, critics are wondering if they spent that time actually working on a second defensive scheme or just holding hands. There are rumors of puppies being brought into practice and random shooting contests instead of the grueling defensive drills required to fix a broken system. The gap between what Draymond expects and what the Fever are doing is massive. The meeting apparently started with the coaches, but was ultimately taken over by the players. This is a huge red flag for Stephanie White's authority. When the players have to be the ones to turn the page because the coaching isn't getting it done, the writing is on the wall. Sophie Cunningham's admission that the meeting was much needed because their performance was not it shows how close this team is to a total internal collapse. Caitlin Clark is caught in the middle of this power struggle, trying to stay professional while the veteran players are forced to coach themselves through a crisis. Draymond Green made it clear that switching 1 through 5 is often a sign of laziness. It's the easy way out because it requires less communication and less effort than fighting through a hard screen. However, in a professional league, lazy is just another word for losing. The Indiana Fever are proving his point every night they step on the court. They are claiming they only run this defense because they don't know anything else, but as the commentator noted, they don't even do that well. It's a lack of effort masquerading as a tactical choice, and it's holding the entire franchise back. The pressure on Caitlin Clark is already immense, and being stuck in a clown show organization only makes it worse. She is the most watched athlete in the sport right now, and every defensive lapse is being scrutinized by millions. When her coach puts her in positions where she is guaranteed to fail, it feeds the narrative that she can't handle the physical nature of the league. Draymond's comments serve as a defense of the players and an indictment of the system. He knows that no matter how good Caitlin is, she can't overcome a coaching staff that refuses to adapt to the reality of the game. Help defense is a basic pillar of basketball, yet it seems to be missing from the Fever's vocabulary. Sophie Cunningham alluded to the fact that their IQ has to be on point, but the tape shows a different story. There is no rotation, no second side help, and no urgency. Draymond Green was baffled by watching professional players simply accept switches and walk away from their primary responsibilities. This lack of want is what separates champions from those just happy to be in the league. For Caitlin Clark, who is used to winning at a high level, this environment must be incredibly frustrating. Some critics are pointing the finger at roster construction, suggesting that the management screwed the pooch on putting this team together. If the talent isn't there to run multiple defensive schemes, then the franchise is in even deeper trouble than we thought. However, the counter-argument is that even a mediocre roster can be coached into a competent defensive unit with the right leadership. Stephanie White is being accused of being a travesty because she has the pieces but doesn't know how to fit them together. The Fever are sitting at 500, but it feels like they are at the bottom. Draymond Green's frustration was palpable when he talked about players not wanting the challenge. He mentioned that in a championship environment, you have to have guys who say, "This is my matchup. I want to stop this guy." Instead, the Fever are looking for the nearest exit the moment a screen is set. This mentality is infectious and can ruin a locker room faster than any losing streak. If Caitlin Clark sees her veterans giving up on plays, it sets a dangerous precedent for her own development. Draymond's warning is clear: you can't win with players who don't want to fight for every inch. There's been a lot of talk about the young guns on the team, but Sophie and the commentators were quick to point out that the rookies aren't the problem. Players like Michaela Thompson and Raven Johnson have actually shown flashes of defensive potential. The breakdown is happening at a systemic level. It's not about inexperience, it's about poor coaching and a lack of a cohesive game plan. When you have a coach who doesn't want to watch film of a loss because it exposes her own failures, you have a leadership crisis. The excuse of having a young team is starting to wear thin for the fans. Draymond used James Harden as an example of someone who gets targeted because of defensive schemes. He noted that while Harden might get annihilated on a switch, it shouldn't be his job to guard certain players one-on-one in the first place. The same logic applies to the Fever stars. Why is Caitlin Clark being forced into these impossible situations? It's because the coaching staff isn't protecting their assets. They are allowing opponents to pick their poison and choose exactly who they want to attack. It's a tactical surrender that has the league's most famous rookie looking for answers. The atmosphere at practice has come under fire as well. Instead of working on the 10 different schemes Sophie mentioned they had last year, the team seems to be focused on bonding and activities. While chemistry matters, it doesn't stop an elite player from dicing you up on the court. The commentators' jab about spades and dominoes might be hyperbolic, but it reflects a genuine concern that the team isn't taking their defensive deficiencies seriously. If you aren't grinding in the film room and on the practice court, you are just waiting for the next disaster to happen on live television. Identity is everything in professional sports, and right now the Indiana Fever don't have one. They don't know who they are offensively, and they certainly don't know who they are defensively. The 2-hour meeting was supposed to find that identity, but you can't talk your way into being a defensive powerhouse. It takes discipline, effort, and a coach who is willing to make the hard calls. Caitlin Clark is a winner by nature, and being part of an organization that is struggling to find its footing after 8 games is a major hurdle. The clown show label is starting to stick to the team. The 4-4 record might look okay on paper to a casual observer, but for those who know the game, it's a mirage. The Fever are struggling against teams they should beat and getting blown out by the elite. The only reason they are even at 500 is due to individual brilliance rather than a solid team system. Draymond Green sees right through the stats to the underlying rot in the defensive strategy. If Stephanie White doesn't change course immediately, that record will plummet as teams get more film on their predictable nonsense. The league is too good for one-trick ponies and lazy schemes. Caitlin Clark is officially stuck in a situation that no one predicted. She was supposed to be the spark that ignited the Fever, but instead she's being dampened by a coaching staff that seems out of its league. Draymond Green's public call-out has put a massive spotlight on Stephanie White, and the pressure is mounting. When a champion defender tells the world your plan is a disaster, people listen. Sophie Cunningham's honesty might have been the first crack in the dam, and now the floodwaters of criticism are rushing in. The Fever organization is at a major crossroads right now. Ultimately, the success of Caitlin Clark's career depends on her being surrounded by a professional environment that mirrors her own drive. Draymond Green's comments serve as a wake-up call for the entire WNBA, reminding everyone that talent alone isn't enough to win. You need a scheme, you need heart, and you need a coach who isn't afraid to look at the ugly truth on the film. If the Fever don't listen to the warnings from legends like Draymond, they risk wasting the most valuable rookie season in history. The next few weeks will determine if this team can finally evolve.